faithfully delivering value, interpreting great books from around the world.
Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk.
Today, we're interpreting the book, The Secret Life of Trees. We almost encounter trees every single day. Trees grow in every corner of the earth, in neighborhoods, under buildings, in parks, along roadsides. They add green to our lives, absorb carbon dioxide through photosynthesis, and release oxygen. But besides that, how much do you really know about them? Are trees solitary organisms?
How do tree parents educate their offspring?
What impact do they have on the global climate? After listening to this book's interpretation, you'll discover many adorable little secrets hidden behind the vast trees. The author of this book, Peter Wohlleben, is a famous German forester and nature writer. From childhood, he aspired to be a guardian of natural resources, studied forestry economics in university, and worked at the German Forestry Administration and forest farms. Through years of observing forests, Peter gained intimate contact with life in nature. He excels at describing plants and animals from a humanized perspective. Sally's Book Talk has interpreted another book of his called The Inner Life of Animals and The Secret Life of Trees. This book, however, focuses on trees in the forest, to understand how trees grow in their natural state, the secret life of trees. Upon publication, this book won the bestseller champion of Der Spiegel's 2015 annual list and stayed at the top for a long time. What secrets are hidden behind the trees? Next, I will interpret this book from three aspects. First, how do trees grow in their natural state? Second, how do trees coexist with their neighbors in the forest? Third, what impact do trees have on the ecological environment? Let's start with the first part, how trees grow in their natural state. Photosynthesis is the most fundamental life activity of trees. In this process, trees use the energy from sunlight to convert carbon dioxide and water into organic matter, storing it within themselves. For trees to thrive, they depend on two key factors, water and sunlight. So let's explore the relationship between trees and each of them.
First is water. Water is the source of life, and trees cannot do without it either.
The normal life activities of trees occur through four steps: absorption, transportation, utilization, and transpiration of water. The first step, absorb water vapor from the air, which falls to the ground through rainfall and is stored in the soil. Trees absorb water from the soil through their roots. Step 2, through the vessels in the xylem of the trunk. Trees transport water rapidly from the roots to the leaves. Step 3, after water reaches all parts of the tree, the inorganic salts and nutrients in the water are absorbed and utilized by the corresponding cells. Our common practice of fertilizing uses this process to supplement energy to trees. Fertilizers dissolve in water, and nutrients are transported through water, helping trees grow more vigorously. Step 4. Transpiration is the process where water is released from the plant surface into the atmosphere as vapor. Transpiration helps maintain humidity in the forest and absorbs heat, lowering temperatures. In hot weather, temperatures in tropical forests can be lower than outside temperatures. Under the scorching sun, people often seek shelter under large tree shades. Not only do they use the leaves to block sunlight, but they also utilize the microenvironment created by transpiration to help cool down. The water in trees achieves a dynamic balance through the cycle of absorption and transpiration. Water is the raw material for trees to perform photosynthesis. Of course, tree growth also relies on the catalysis of sunlight. Sunlight directly affects the sprouting and flowering of trees. Whenever spring returns to the earth, all things revive, and trees sprout new buds, ready to grow. How do trees confirm whether the timing for sprouting is ripe? And scientists have discovered through long-term research that trees have a form of visual ability. By absorbing and recording light information, combined with temperature changes, they confirm the arrival of spring and calculate the optimal time for sprouting. For example, European beech trees require a certain number of warm days and daylight hours exceeding 13 hours to become active. Sprouting new leaf buds, the changes in sunlight and temperature are like the starting gunshot. Trees hear the signal and begin rapid growth. So, are there clever trees that sense the signals of spring early and get a head start? Shorter trees seize this opportunity. After hibernation, with the warmth of spring, the ground temperature is relatively higher, allowing smaller trees and those in lower layers to sense the arrival of spring earlier. They absorb and utilize as much sunlight as possible before the large tree's foliage blocks most of the light. According to observations, spring arrives on the forest floor about 2 weeks earlier than at the top of the canopy 30 meters high. So, during these precious 2 weeks, trees on the ground sprout quickly, storing energy for growth. By the time the large trees awaken and start growing new leaves, there's pitifully little energy left for the shorter trees. Um, mm, In dense forests, tall trees essentially occupy and monopolize 97% of the sunlight resources. You might sigh, all the good resources are taken by the towering trees, making the growth environment for new saplings incredibly tough. Don't tree parents want their children to grow up and become independent as soon as possible? Actually, this is precisely how forest trees educate their offspring. The energy from the 3% of sunlight that reaches the ground is just enough for small trees to barely sustain photosynthesis, allowing them to grow slowly. Slow growth during adolescence is a prerequisite for trees to be healthy and long-lived in the future. Because they grow slowly, the wood cells inside trees are very small, with low air content, making them more elastic and resilient, giving them more confidence for the future. Facing storms, more importantly, fungi find it hard to spread and survive in the hard-textured trunks, giving them stronger resistance to fungal infections. On the other hand, some small trees living in cities, lacking strict upbringing from parents during adolescence, grow accustomed to a privileged life from a young age. Their unusually thick trunks are a result of overindulging in sunlight. The resulting big belly lacks sufficient sedimentation and accumulation. Their cells are large and filled with air. When they grow up, they become relatively fragile, easily toppling in the face of threats, and eventually have to be replaced by transplanted new saplings. So, do forest parents really neglect their children? Actually, no. Strong and healthy trees privately transfer nutrients to the old, weak, sick, or injured. This leads to talking about the internet formed between trees. In the entire forest ecosystem, no tree can isolate itself. Mm. Um, it's They communicate through the underground internet and by emitting scents. The internet is already very familiar to everyone. It's integrated into every aspect of our lives. Actually, in forests, there's also an internet for plants. This network relies on fungi to establish connections. Fungi draw nutrients from tree roots for their own growth and reproduction, and the fungal hyphae interconnect and intertwine. The continuously expanding, orderly network underground is called the mycelium. Mycelium and trees have a mutually dependent relationship. The mycelium survives by parasitizing trees, while trees rely on the mycelium to expand their root area, absorb more water and nutrients from the soil, and connect trees of the same species together. For example, in Switzerland, there's a honey fungus that has expanded into a mycelium network covering about half a square kilometer over thousands of years. In Oregon, USA, there's a mycelium over 2,400 years old, covering about 9 square kilometers and weighing approximately 600 tons. The network formed by the collaboration between trees and mycelium is not only crucial for tree growth, but also highly significant for forest ecosystem development. Throughout their lives, trees inevitably face diseases or sudden events, like storms causing branches to break. However, in forests, these weakened trees don't die immediately. They gradually overcome difficulties and return to normal growth. Moreover, some dead trees sprout new branches and leaves from their roots after a while. Why is that? Do trees possess some magical spell to come back to life? Actually, the underground internet plays a decisive role in this process. Professor Vanessa Bircher from RWTH Aachen University in Germany discovered through long-term research that trees automatically regulate differences between the strong and weak. Wrong. Regardless of trunk thickness, trees of the same species produce nearly equal sugar per leaf with light assistance. This regulation occurs underground. Productive trees work harder while the poor gratefully receive aid when needed. This vast internet functions like a giant energy redistribution machine. Roots of the same species connect via mycelium, sharing nutrients to help old, weak, sick, or injured counterparts overcome hardships. Why are trees so social? Despite knowing it might foster competition, why do they still share nutrients with their own kind? The reason is simple and similar to human society. Unity brings strength. If all trees were selfish and only looked out for themselves, once surrounding trees die, a single tree couldn't maintain a stable climate and would endure storms alone. It would be helpless against competition from other species. Conversely, cooperative trees form ecosystems storing water and creating humid air. In such climates, they grow healthily and gain advantages when competing with other tree species. Thus, trees maintain a community of life by establishing connections through mycelium and sharing nutrients. If I can get demarcations between trees isn't limited to the root internet. They also have their own language of expression, scent. When encountering danger or pathogens, trees secrete specific chemicals to warn other parts of themselves or neighboring trees. African acacia trees rapidly release a warning gas when giraffes start nibbling on them. The ethylene gas spreads with the wind. Acacias, within about 100 meters, receive the warning signal and distribute toxins in their leaves within minutes. To giraffes, toxin-containing leaves taste like chewing wax. Giraffes then abandon eating the acacia leaves. While scent-based messaging spreads quickly over large areas, it has drawbacks. Scents easily disperse in wind, and downwind companions miss signals. Clever trees maintain a second line of defense. And through underground root connections with mycelium, they release specific chemicals, generating electrical signals to alert nearby companions of danger. When trees grow old and weak or contract diseases, their declining resistance is accompanied by diminished expressive ability, a vulnerability pests exploit by targeting weak individuals. After trees emit warnings, pests test bite leaves or bark of surrounding trees to identify those remaining silent during the process. These silent, weak trees may be seriously ill or disconnected from the mycelium network, unable to receive danger signals. Thus, they become unfortunate victims of pest attacks. Pests harm not only trees this way, but also test shrubs, herbs, and other plants before attacking them. In fields and parks, most plants remain silent when facing insect infestations. This is because most cultivated plants have lost their ability to communicate above or below ground. That's why modern agriculture relies heavily on pesticides to help plants resist pests. Not all tree-insect communication relates to defense or disease. Many positive connections exist too. For example, flowering plants and pollinators like bees form interdependent, mutually beneficial relationships. Trees sprout and bloom, emitting fragrances and offering sweet nectar to attract bees and other insects. Bees help trees complete pollination while collecting nectar. Beyond insects, how do trees coexist with their many other neighbors? Trees are crucial carriers of biodiversity. Different parts of a tree create varied microecosystems with distinct temperature, humidity, and light conditions, attracting diverse species to settle. Different organisms achieve dynamic balance through competition, cooperation, and various interactions. In the second part, let's discuss how trees coexist with their neighbors in the forest. First, let's examine animals inhabiting trees. Most popular area for small creatures is the top layer, the canopy. Here there's abundant sunlight and lush greenery. German tree expert Dr. Martin Gossner once studied a 600-year-old tree standing 52 meters tall with a trunk diameter of 2 meters.
Researchers found 2,041 organisms in the treetop, belonging to 257 different species.
In the canopy, trunk forks create unique moist community environments. They communicate through the underground internet and by emitting scents. The internet is already familiar. integrated into every aspect of our lives. Actually, forests have their own plant internet. This fungal network connects trees, drawing nutrients for growth while hyphae interweave. The continuously expanding underground network is called mycelium. Mycelium and trees share a mutually dependent relationship. Mycelium survives by parasitizing trees, while trees use it to expand roots, absorb nutrients, and connect same-species trees. For example, a honey fungus in Switzerland expanded into a half-square-kilometer mycelium network over millennia. A 2,400-year-old mycelium in Oregon covers 9 square kilometers, weighing about 600 tons. The tree mycelium network is crucial for tree growth and forest ecosystem development. Trees inevitably face diseases or branch breakage from storms during their lives. However, in forests, these weakened trees don't die immediately. They gradually overcome difficulties and return to normal growth. Moreover, some dead trees sprout new branches and leaves from their roots after a while. Why is that? Do trees possess some magical spell to come back to life? Actually, the underground internet plays a decisive role in this process.
Professor Vanessa Bircher from RWTH Aachen University in Germany discovered through long-term research that trees automatically regulate differences between the strong and weak.
Regardless of trunk thickness, trees of the same species produce nearly equal sugar per leaf, with light assistance. This regulation occurs underground. Productive trees work harder, while the poor gratefully receive aid when needed. This vast internet functions like a giant energy redistribution machine. Roots of the same species connect via mycelium, sharing nutrients to help old, weak, sick, or injured counterparts overcome hardships. Why are trees so social? Despite knowing it might foster competition, why do they still share nutrients with their own kind? The reason is simple and similar to human society. Unity brings strength. So, if all trees were selfish and only looked out for themselves, once surrounding trees die, a single tree couldn't maintain a stable climate and would endure storms alone. It would be helpless against competition from other species. Conversely, cooperative trees form ecosystems storing water and creating humid air. In such climates, they grow healthily and gain advantages when competing with other tree species. Thus, trees maintain a community of life by establishing connections through mycelium and sharing nutrients. Demonstration between trees isn't limited to the root internet. They also have their own language of expression, scent. When encountering danger or pathogens, trees secrete specific chemicals to warn other parts of themselves or neighboring trees. African acacia trees rapidly release a warning gas when giraffes start nibbling on them. The ethylene gas spreads with the wind. Acacias within about 100 meters receive the warning signal and distribute toxins in their leaves within minutes. To giraffes, toxin-containing leaves taste like chewing wax. Giraffes then abandon eating the acacia leaves. While scent-based messaging spreads quickly over large areas, it has drawbacks. Scents easily disperse in wind, and downwind companions miss signals. Clever trees maintain a second line of defense.
Through underground root connections with mycelium, they release specific chemicals generating electrical signals to alert nearby companions of danger.
When trees grow old or weak or contract diseases, declining resistance accompanies diminished expressive ability, a vulnerability pests exploit by targeting weak individuals. After trees emit warnings, pests test bites surrounding trees' leaves or bark to identify those remaining silent. These silent, weak trees may be seriously ill or disconnected from mycelium networks, unable to receive danger signals. Thus, they become unfortunate victims of pest attacks. Pests harm not only trees but also test shrubs or herbs before attacking. In fields and parks, most plants remain silent during insect infestations. This occurs because cultivated plants have lost above or below ground communication abilities. Hence, modern agriculture relies heavily on pesticides for pest resistance. Not all tree-insect communication is defensive. Many positive connections exist. For example, flowering plants and pollinators form symbiotic relationships. Trees emit fragrances and offer nectar to attract bees or insects. These help trees complete pollination while collecting nectar. Beyond insects, how do trees coexist with their other neighbors? As crucial biodiversity carriers, trees create varied microecosystems through temperature, humidity, and light variations, attracting diverse species. Different organisms achieve dynamic balance through competition or cooperation. Part 2, let's discuss how trees coexist with their forest neighbors. First, let's examine animals inhabiting trees. The canopy layer is most popular among small creatures. Here, there's abundant sunlight and lush greenery. German tree expert Dr. Martin Gossner studied a 600-year-old tree, 52 meters tall with a 2-meter trunk diameter. Researchers found 2,041 organisms in the treetop, representing 257 different species. Tree forks in the canopy create unique moist community environments. Theoretically, this water cycle only exists within hundreds of kilometers inland from coastlines. Around 600 kilometers from coastlines, deserts begin forming due to extreme dryness.
But in reality, this terrifying scenario doesn't occur.
That's because forests play a decisive role throughout this process.
Professor Anastasia Makareva's Russian team studied global forests' impact on inland rainfall.
They concluded trees are key to continuously transporting moisture inland. Forests act like green water pumps. So how does this pumping work? First, rainwater gets intercepted by forest trees. Interception means rain is blocked by leaves or trunks before reaching soil. Forests have the largest total leaf area among vegetation types. The canopy's leaf surface area can reach 27 square meters per ground square meter. As rain passes through layered leaves, significant amounts get intercepted and evaporate immediately. This process dramatically slows humidity reduction. Second, forest soil acts like a giant underground reservoir, storing rainwater released via transpiration to increase air moisture. Studies show each kilometer squared of forest releases approximately 2.5 million liters via transpiration in summer, regulating water balance. Vapor condenses into clouds, bringing inland rain. When encountering forests inland, moisture returns to the atmosphere. Through this continuous cycle, forests act like a relay race, enabling rainfall even in remote inland areas. Thus, if forests are completely cleared or spaced too far apart, the entire water cycle gets disrupted.
The impacts of unscientific deforestation are already visible in Brazil.
Coastal forest destruction is drying the Amazon rainforest. Trees' most direct ecological role is air purification. Long hailed as Earth's lungs, forests absorb CO2 for photosynthesis while releasing life-sustaining oxygen. Moreover, trees are exceptional air filters. Their vast leaf surfaces absorb CO2 and convert it to oxygen. They also continuously intercept suspended particles from flowing air. These particles include pollen, dust, and human-made pollutants like soot, toxic hydrocarbons, and nitrites. Trees intercept up to 7,000 tons of airborne impurities per square kilometer annually. An astonishing figure. Imagine daily sandstorms without trees' filtration. They not only capture particles but release during respiration volatile substances that kill bacteria or fungi. Plant oils like thyme and lemon have long been medical disinfectants. By now, you likely understand trees better and feel their presence more tangibly. May this book help you see trees anew and extend empathy to each one. As Avatar says, the world's wealth isn't buried minerals, but everything around us. Well, that's the secret life of trees. That concludes our interpretation. Notes are below the audio. Until next time.